All right, everybody, let's take a look and see what happened in the stock market today. Yesterday, actually, first, I talked about beware the divergence, and it definitely showed up today. So upper left-hand corner, we're looking at the ES, which is the E-mini S&P 500 futures. Okay? For those that don't know, a lot of you do know, but I tend to trade the E-micro S&P 500 futures, so that would be MES. Okay, today you can see this doji looking candlestick, but we've had a few of those lately. One here, one there, one right there. Okay. If you didn't watch my video from last night, I talked about a divergence that I thought was going to show up today. Well, the link is in the description below this, and it's a really good video. You need to go watch it. Really learn a lot. But I'll briefly cover it here, and then we'll look at the 1 hour too. By the way, stick around for the end of the video. I'll share my profit loss with everybody. Okay, so what am I talking about when it comes to this divergence? So this is the daily chart. Let me give you an example of a really obvious divergence that happened when we went through the quad witching, September, October, this whole thing. Okay. How could we know that this was happening? How would you forecast this? And yes, on this channel, I forecast and predict the stock market. A lot of people say, that's not possible. Yes, it is possible. So let me show you how. There are several ways we can do this, but we're going to do what's called using a divergence to determine what's coming in the future, okay? So let's look at right here on both the Big Daddy, but you can also use the SMI right here, which is the Stochastic Momentum Index. Okay, Big Daddy is my own algorithm, but any fast-moving indicator will probably give you similar results. Okay, so let's look at the SMI. So what kind of divergence am I talking about? So on this day right here, you can see that SMI had a peak, and it started working its way down to the next peak. Yeah, there's a big valley here, and obviously price dropped off right there. But we're not talking about that. We're talking from peak to peak. Okay? And you can even check the values. Let's check the value on that day where the peak was. The value was, for the SMI, was 85.6. And the other peak was approximately, I don't know, maybe like right there, somewhere in this area. Let's get it exact. The peak was on that day right there. That's 77. So obviously from 85 on the SMI to the peak right there of 77, right? There's a difference, right? It goes from 85 down to 77, okay? Right, let's look at the Big Daddy. The Big Daddy had a score of 456, and over here, well, actually this was a score of 459. Okay, but we do see a divergence from here to there, and we also get another divergence right here. We're going to talk about that. The second divergence, the little one, that's a huge divergence. Okay, so both of these are moving down. Particularly the SMI is obvious. Most people are not really going to have an eye for the Big Daddy. I worked with it for a while, so I understand it. Of course, it's my algorithm, so I understand it really well. But most people are going to do much better with the SMI if you're looking for divergences. Though they don't always show up on the SMI, and sometimes they'll show up on the Big Daddy, and vice versa. I've seen that happen. Okay, so they're going down from that point right there. And what does price do between this point and this point? Or even that point and that point? Well, we can see price went up, right? Sure, it had this dip, but we're talking from high to high here, point to point. Price went up the whole way. That's a divergence. Okay, you can see it right here. It's clear. Price is going this way. Price is going up, while the SMI is going down. Okay. And the length of the divergence can actually really help you out. The longer the divergence, generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, the greater the decline, or at least the probability of decline could be more significant, okay? And sure enough, we got a huge decline. Of course, quad wedging had a lot to do with that as well, okay? Let's go back and look at another one, then we'll talk about today's divergence. Or the most recent divergence. Okay, here in the Big Daddy, you can see it's really obvious. Here, all the way down to here, right? You can clearly see it's going down. Okay, and you can look at the values here. This one was at 433. This one was at 368, so a big difference, right? What did the SMI do at the same time? Well, we'll pull it from right there. This is really the peak over here, but this is pretty close too. Right there looks good. Yeah, 91.45. And over here, it's all the way down. All the way down to 45. Oh my gosh, it's cut in half. Like that one's really obvious, right? Look at this massive decline in the SMI across this peak to peak. Okay. So what does price do from, I mean, the Big Daddy told us way back here that something was going to happen, right? It started from way back there. But even if you just looked at the SMI, it started about right there. And what happened with price? All the way to this point. So we're looking for that. Between those two lines, what did price do? Well, it went up. See that? How price went up? Pretty cool, right? All right, so these indicators are going down, right? These two indicators are going down. Price is going up. Okay, you can see the MACD at the bottom is pretty much following price most of the way, and then starts to give it up and goes flat. Flat lines right there. That's a really good indication. Okay, you want to keep your eye on those kind of things. Okay, so those are two examples of divergence. You can even see one happening over here. Okay, and here, and price during that time was going that way. Okay, it's really important to understand that just because something's going down doesn't mean there's a divergence. It's only a divergence if price is moving in the opposite direction. So if these indicators are going down and price is going up, that's a divergence. If they're moving together, that's not a divergence. So basically, in a nutshell, when you don't have a divergence, you can just basically follow the indicator and trade it in the direction the indicator is going in, long or short. Okay, so let's take a look at the most recent divergence that's going on. Okay, down here at the Big Daddy, that was 404 back on 10/20, October 20th, and then just yesterday, or Friday I should say, on 10/29 it was 386. Though this is not a huge divergence going on in the Big Daddy, but it is there. So there's a small divergence happening right here, going down just a little bit. But it really shows up in the SMI, about right there, even all the way to today. Okay? Even to today, all the way down to there. Okay? Once again, the price and the MACD are both going up, right? Price is going up, MACD is going up, okay? But the SMI is going down, and so is the Big Daddy. Even though this line looks a little weird, it actually is going down a little bit. It's going down just a little bit, okay? Across from there to there. So let's see, does this eraser work? Yeah, it works nice. Yeah, so this actually is going down. If I can get the mouse to cooperate with me properly, there you go. It's a little better. So that's going down too. Okay. So there's your divergence. For those that want to know how you can look for divergences, that's how you do it. Okay. Now, how did I know? Last night I put out the video and said, beware of the divergence. How did I know? I mean, this is happening over a period of days. Like, how do you know when the market might stall or pull back? Okay, for that we're going to switch over to the hourly chart. Okay, so let's switch over to the hourly chart. 20-day 1 hour is fine. Okay, and what we're looking for is, well, you guessed, you're just looking for the same thing. You're just now in a different time frame, right? We're just looking at the hourly chart, but you're looking for the same thing. Okay, and did it show up? Showed up several times. We had a little one back here, back last Thursday, and what happened? Overnight it went down. Very few people knew about it because it happened overnight. Okay. Here's from peak to peak. This is clearly not a divergence, right? If the price was moving down while this was going up, you'd have a divergence. Okay? But clearly, from this point to this point, peak to peak, is upward, right? And price is matching it, going up. So that's not a divergence. Okay? They're in lockstep, if you will. They're working together, both working up. Okay, so here, you can see the line here, right? From this point to this point is down. Okay? And this time it really showed up really well on the Big Daddy. Like really well, even more so than the SMI. Okay? Now, how did I suspect? Well, I happen to know, I'm looking at the Big Daddy here on last Friday, and that's a pretty decent number there at 414. Almost 415 right there on Friday. On the Big Daddy, 415. So, it's, if you look back throughout the rest of recent history, this peak on the Big Daddies, it's higher than this one, and all higher than that one, and all of these, and even higher than that one. So if you go back, like at least just for a few days, you can see that this is elevated. Okay. So I suspected we were going to get a divergence. I wasn't sure, and I talked about it, and there, sure enough, it showed up. So I was up really late last night watching this thing. Watching it. Okay. To be honest with you, when we got about here, actually it was about 1 o'clock, I thought, oh, we're not going to get a divergence. Because divergences require price to go up at some point. It was coming down. I think I went to bed between this candlestick and this candlestick. I got up pretty early, about whatever it was, before 7 a.m. Okay. Which was this candlestick right there. And I was like, whoa. 3, 4, and 5 o'clock, or especially 3 o'clock, was dramatically up. Well, that's when, I think it's when London, England, the London Exchange comes online right there. At that time. At 3 a.m. my time. So you get, London comes on, and the London Exchange just went, hog wild crazy, and bought up a bunch of futures contracts, or possibly they're trading SPY, whatever they're doing over there, however they're participating in the market, obviously. Okay. So when I got up and looked at it, we were at this candlestick here. I was like, okay, we got our divergence. The game on, because there it is right there. Okay, that completes the divergence overnight. Peak to peak is down. What did price do? So you don't have to. People. Some of you may not understand. Well, what about all this? What about all this? You gotta remember peak to peak. So if we grab it right here, okay, that's that candlestick. So we take the value at the close of that candlestick. Okay. And then the next peak, we take the value of that close, and we compare the two. You don't even have to compare it. You can tell 46.12, and this is way up here at 46, almost 46.19. So clearly price went up. Okay, clearly price went up during this time, while this indicator was going down. And this one. So I knew by, when I got up and looked at the 7 o'clock candlestick, I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be a big down day. And it was. It traded down pretty much all the way to, what was that, 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock. From 6 a.m. all the way to 9 a.m. was down. Okay. Okay, so now as I'm recording this, you can see the 5 o'clock hour just came on. So the futures market just opened up. So for those that don't know, there you go. Futures market just opened up right here. New candlestick, 5 o'clock Central Standard Time here in Texas. Chicago time. Texas time. Okay, that's what's happening. So I'll be watching this again tonight just to see what happens. Okay, so that's the deal. That's how you get to, you want to be on the lookout for divergences. And if they happen like that on the daily chart, then for timing, you want to look for the same thing on the hourly chart. If you don't get the divergence, no problem. You know the price is normally going to go in the same direction as the indicators. So if the indicators are pointing up, fine, just go long. If you get a divergence like you got here, okay, you got to be really careful. Goes almost every time. On the hourly chart, you get divergence, maybe 6-8 hour pair, whatever it is, you're going to see a price decline, okay? You're going to see a price decline. All right. So let me switch over, show you the profit loss for the day, then we'll come right back and I'll finish up with my thoughts for tomorrow and the next 2 or 3 days. Okay, guys, here you go. I traded the MES, okay, and these are December contracts, and you can see over here $1,000, banging day, absolutely banging day. At the time I took this screenshot, I still had an open position, and that position was running a little bit profitable as well. Okay, so you can see that I was taking advantage of this going on right there, right? Let me just get a little bit bigger line. Let's take advantage of that. Okay, and look at it, guys. I talked about this as well. This is something you really need to understand. This is the hourly chart. So we're looking at the hourly chart. Look at this, the 50-hour moving average. 50-day, 50-hour, doesn't matter. Okay, 15-minute chart. 50. Okay, 15 minutes. Okay, if that makes any sense, hopefully that makes sense to everybody. But this is a 50-hour. Okay, and what did it do? Came right down and absolutely touched the 50-hour line. The 50-hour simple moving average. Okay, so if you, like I said, if you didn't watch my video from yesterday, you need to really go back and watch it. I think there's another video in that link as well that talks about the $1,800 swing trade. That's the one you really want to watch, the $1,800 swing trade. It'll teach you everything, almost everything you're going to need to know about what you're seeing here, okay, and how to capitalize on big moves, okay, whether they're these kind of moves or these kind of moves, okay. All right, so obviously I'm taking advantage of some knowledge that a divergence was going to happen, okay. Now, you know, there's a little bit of art involved in here on when to get in, and, you know, there isn't going to be some big sign that flashes on your screen and says, you know, buy now or sell now, go long or go short. So, you know, you have to have a little bit of a feel. You know, once this candlestick started getting some legs underneath it, I was in. Okay. So there's a little bit of art form to trading as well, but pretty much, you know, what you're hearing here and what you're going to hear in the $1,800 swing trade video is going to teach you a lot on how to trade, okay? And I've always said it many times, I'm going to say it again, guys and gals. If you're not good at trading, you're losing a lot of money, be honest with yourself. Just throw everything out, throw it in the trash, okay? And start really, really small positions until you become a profitable trader, okay? If you're not profitable, you need to just get it really, really small. Just a few shares or one contract until you learn how to be profitable. Then you go and start trading bigger, but not until then, okay? And as I always advocate in this channel, guys and gals, always use your stop loss to prevent any big losses, okay? Keep your losses small, and always, usually always, once your profits are there and you got your profitability is moving and you've got profitability on the table, trailing stop to lock it in is a good idea, okay? Or you could trail it manually, but, you know, trailing stop's going to, for you people who are not good traders, trailing stop's going to keep you profitable, okay, until you can become a little bit better trader, okay? All right, so there you go, guys. $1,000 profit going on for today. It was a banging day. I'm so grateful. So grateful. All right, let's go finish up the video with my outlook for tomorrow and what I think is coming up for the S&P 500. Okay, guys, so let me switch over to the daily chart, and we'll talk about what I think is going on. If I can click on the right thing here. Here we go. My best guess. Okay, that's a new day starting right there. Just looking at this divergence on the daily chart that we got going on. Pretty decent divergence going on here. Not super strong on the Big Daddy, so maybe not as strong as I like to see it. But in length, you know, the divergence started about right there. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, 8 days through today when I think the divergence kind of really showed up here, as far as price starting to reflect the divergence. It's similar to this one back here, okay? Now, the Big Daddy had a better divergence back here than it does on this one. So it's a little bit mixed, but if we look at the same kind of time frame, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days in, this is 8 days in, so they're very similar as far as duration goes, okay? Excuse me. I don't think this divergence is quite as strong as this one, okay? So it's kind of hard to tell for sure, but if I just had to guess, and there's a big difference in the MACD back here compared to this. This is so super strong. It's crazy how strong this is. Okay. But if I had to guess based on the duration and looking at the way that this divergence is developing and kind of looking at this one back here, you know, no two divergences are ever the same, but, you know, I would say 2 days worth of pullback. It may not be like right in a row. Like we might like see how this one was a green day. Okay, let me get rid of that line right there. I think that's just a drawing. Yeah, it's not a lower wick. So, and today was really super, really big bounce back. You know, I think it started like at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. The bounce back was pretty strong, and just finished up as a little doji here. So maybe not, definitely not as strong as what we had going on right there. So yeah, I'm still kind of waiting to see how this is going to develop, but I do think we're going to get maybe 2 or 3 days of red would be my best guess. I just don't know if they're going to be consecutive. You know, I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen here. Okay, that would be my best guess on what I'm seeing in this divergence, because this divergence looks sufficient enough to warrant a price pullback of some kind. Okay. Now, I talked about this yesterday. Now I'm going to finish up with this. When you begin to get an amplitude that's far away from the 50, you know, usually at some point it's going to come back. Usually at some point, as the amplitude or the height of the wave gets away from the 50, okay, at some point they want to pull back and come back and either touch the 50 or at least, you know, come down and kind of get close to it. You know, I'm just kind of looking back here at some of these amplitude waves. So, you know, this was obviously a very strong upward movement, you know. So I'm looking at the amplitude here, and it's pretty decent. I think I measured it earlier, and it's about as long as this one over here, or as high, I should say. So they're all very similar, right? The amplitude's very similar. The height of these are all very similar. So I would expect a pullback here. That's another reason why I say I think we're going to get a pullback, just because of the height of the amplitude between the 50 and there. So usually these things do pull back. I don't know what the 50 is going to do, whatever, who knows. But usually they do start to pull back and come down and meet the 50, or at least get close. Okay? So if that happens, what we would see is the continuation of the SMI rolling over, of course a decline in the Big Daddy, and then eventually this would begin, these two lines begin to kind of come together and flatten out, okay? They might even begin to turn over and flatten out. So that's what we're looking for, okay? To see if that's going to happen. If it does, then I think we will have some price decline for probably a couple days, okay? In other words, what it'll look like, guys, as I switch back to the hourly, it looked like that. The MACD would come down and flatten on itself. Okay, you just get on the daily chart rather than on the hourly chart. That's all. Okay, so the 5 o'clock hour here looks a little bit weak. Of course, we'll see what happens overnight. See if this trades down, does one of these deals. Okay. All right, guys and gals, if you enjoyed this video, which I hope you did, I hope you learned a lot. Today was an awesome, profitable day. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to click that little bell to be notified of all the videos I put them out. Happy trading, everybody. We'll talk to you all real soon again next time.